Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the retirement ceremony for Lieutenant Colonel Jason Bachelor. I am Captain Kevin Cabusora, the narrator for today's event. Throughout the ceremony, you will be given various cues to stand and be seated at the appropriate times. As a reminder, for the national anthem, military members must stand at the position of attention, and our civilian guests should place their right hand over their heart. Please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the singing of the national anthem by Master Sergeant Grant and the invocation by Chaplain Louise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Deuces, guests, if you choose, please join me in prayer. Lord, I believe you are immutable and unchanging. You reign supreme by far, not just because of what you do, but simply because of who you are. Lord, I thank you that there is no one like you in existence. You need no assistance, even though mankind shows you constant resistance. You still pursue us with perfect persistence. Father, according to your sovereign plan, we change many times in one lifespan. However, you never change. You are immutable. These seasons of change we experience are celebrated today as Lieutenant Colonel Jason Bachelor sets out on a new adventure. We are thankful for his faithful service and caring leadership. We are thankful for Shannon's sacrifice and support she has given to Jason and our country. We praise you for Robert and Charlotte, for parents that raised a son that loved liberty enough to serve. For Cameron, Riley, and Lily, may they know that today would not be possible without their love also. So as we say deuces to the leader of the squadron that is second to none, may you bless him with blue skies and tailwinds on the journey ahead. And as we remember our careers, and we can all recall our ups and downs, our inconsistencies and idiosyncrasies, still you pursue us relentlessly. Because of your grace, we can rest in you, our hiding place. God, you are immutable. You are beautiful. You never change. You remain the same. Forever you reign. We pray all these things in your excellent, unchanging name. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Master Sergeant Grant and Chaplain Louise. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Today is a joyous yet bittersweet occasion, a celebration of grand accomplishment and the end of a long, faithful, and honorable career. Lieutenant Colonel Jason Bachelor has proudly served his country in the United States Air Force for 20 years and 9 months. Today we honor him with a time-honored military tradition, the retirement ceremony. Please join me in recognizing our official party and distinguished guests in attendance. The presiding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Ryan J. Adams, United States Air Force, retired. His spouse, Christina, and their children, Robert and Scott. The honoree, Lieutenant Colonel Jason R. Bachelor. His spouse, Shannon, their children, Cameron, Riley, and Lily. Lieutenant Colonel Bachelor's parents, Robert and Charlotte. We are also honored to have family members joining us virtually. Lieutenant Colonel Bachelor's father-in-law and mother-in-law, Bill and Jane Batley, as well as his sister Blaine, her husband Chris, and their son Dax. Please welcome the Commander, 305th Air Mobility Wing, Colonel Scott Wiederholt. The Commander, 305th Operations Group, Colonel Michelle Lobianco, and Chief Master Sergeant Chris Onwes. And the Commander, 305th Maintenance Group, Colonel Mary Teeter. It is now my pleasure to welcome the presiding officer of today's ceremony, Lieutenant Colonel Adams.
Well, thank you very much. It is an honor to be here. I hung this up 3 years ago, and it is honestly kind of fun to be able to put it back on again and to come back out and be with my Air Force brothers and sisters. Sir, thank you for the opportunity of being here on the base. Colonel Lobianco, nice to meet you just a little bit ago. How about a round of applause for our national anthem? That was fantastic. Very well done, very well done. Well, I am not here to give any sort of speech whatsoever, but if it's all right, I'll just tell a little story about my friend Jason. I'm honored he asked me. If you know Jason, by the way, you know that sometimes he can come across with plenty of confidence, but I'm going to tell you the reality is he's also very humble. And through my little story, I'll give a couple examples to why, but the first one is the fact, quite honestly, that he asked me to do this. He's been around and he's done things, and he could have had somebody up here with a lot more rank than I have to do this, but he asked me to do this because he oddly gives a nod to me for starting him on his path to success, which is really, he did it all himself. I just will tell in just a second about how I kind of gave him just a little bit of nudge at the beginning of all of this. With that being said, I've got a couple slides that I'll click through that I did not put together, but this man did. His story starts in 1996 with the Air Force as a cadet at University of Florida in Gainesville. He's a Florida boy by, you were born in Florida, weren't you? But I knew you were raised there and grew up there. Yeah. And so he just drove down the road. Did you grow up in Valparaiso? I know that's where, Bob, Charlotte, that's where you live now.
Little time in England, some time in DC, but yeah, mostly Valp. Yep.
There you go. So he just drove down the road to Gainesville for school. And while he was there his freshman year, he continued a tradition that he had with his dad that goes back to him in 7th grade, where in the winter, springtime, they would go to Utah to go skiing together. And he had this thought while he's a freshman in Florida, hey, let's not only go skiing, but I want to check something out because I've heard that Brigham Young University has got a very high acceptance rate of cadets getting into pilot training. And that was appealing to him. It was also a newfound faith that he had also led him towards BYU. But really, they had a lot of success with pilots. And so he wanted to go check that out. So they did. And he quickly fell in love with it. So he transferred to BYU and did incredibly well there. I think it's amusing that he's there kicking back with a couple of our buddies with IBC root beer, which is about the hardest thing you can find on that campus. But he's sporting it like a champ there in the middle. He comes to BYU in 1997. I was the illustrious, as a senior, I was the cadet wing commander. And on our wing staff, there was a spot for one underclassman, and he applied for it, and no one knew this guy. He's a transfer from Florida. And, but I kind of like this guy's, I like his pizzazz. He was extremely professional, but he could also do a little bit of this. And I thought, man, I kind of like it. I like his sass. And so that's where he says that I helped him get recognized. We did. I had the ability with all of my rank as a cadet colonel to pick him. So I did. So I picked him to be on our wing staff, and he shined. The reality is I'm hearing people call you JB now.
Yeah.
We knew him as trash. That's what we called him back then, was Bachelor trash. And so he was known as Bachelor trash back then. And the reality was he was anything but trash. When he went to field training, which is the ROTC version of basic training, he graduated the #1 cadet out of the entire encampment. That's pretty impressive. He ends up graduating with a degree in geology and also as a distinguished graduate from ROTC. Got himself a pilot slot. So again, I'm here because he says that I gave him that nudge at the beginning. He did it all on his own. He really did. But I'm grateful for the friendship that we were able to start back then, and then we just kept in touch along the way. Well, really the best thing, before I've got to share one little story. The reality is he did not want to be a KC-10 guy. He really wanted to be a fighter guy. And he mocked me so much because all I wanted to do from day one in ROTC was be a KC-10 pilot. That's what I wanted. And I had a KC-10 model that hung over my desk in the cadet office on a couple of wires. I was a college kid. It was a cheap model, just plastic put together. But these guys one day took my model apart, and BYU had a bakery, and they could make some amazing maple bars. They were huge, and they called them cougar tails. Someone bought a cougar tail and took the wings of the KC-10 and stuck it into the maple bar, and then the tail in the top of it, and put it on my desk. And everyone told me that you were responsible for
stop
it.
that.
Everyone said that Bachelor's responsible for it, but he used to mock me a little bit for my desire to be a KC-10 guy, but he found the light. Where he really found the light was before he graduated, about 4 or 5 months prior, he decided to change apartments, and he moved in an apartment complex where he met Shannon. And that was his wisest move while he was at BYU. He meets Shannon, and then soon thereafter graduates. Yeah. And he's got an assignment to go to Duke Field. This next slide's a little hard for me to look at, but there it is. He put these slides together. He gets assigned to Duke Field, which is that's home. That's home in Florida, and he's going to be casual status there. He was executive officer for the 8th Special Operations Squadron at Duke Field, doing all kinds of great things right off the bat. He and Shannon are doing the long distance thing while she's still in Utah for a little bit. And then 2001 starts off not well for Jason. While he's casual status at Duke Field, on January 8th of 2001, he goes to Brooks Air Force Base in Texas. All young officers that are going to be pilots have to go there for a pretty intense flight screening, medical screening. They look through your eyes with all kinds of medical stuff, as well as your heart. And they found that he had a very slight defect with a valve in his heart, where what was it called?
Mitral valve prolapse.
That's it. Where just a little bit too much blood came out when the valve closed, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I remember because he called me. And this proud guy is almost in tears when he's talking about how he got X'd. They said, you cannot go to pilot training because of this, and he was crushed. 2001 did not start off well for him. So he still stays there at Duke Field for a little bit, trying to figure out what's going to happen next. He's applying for waivers. In the meantime, things brighten up a little bit because Shannon moves out to Florida, gets an apartment on the beach. Jason's living with his parents nearby, and now they're not doing the long distance thing anymore, and she's really trying to figure this out. About this time, I'm stationed at Laughlin Air Force Base, and I'm a T-37 instructor. And I get a phone call from Shannon. I had no idea that these guys were dating. And here's the reality. This is where it gets a little weird. I babysat Shannon. We grew up in the same town. My little sister is best friends with her. We went to church together. Her parents were like my Sunday school teachers. I knew the Batley family very, very well. And she calls me up and I said, "Hey Shannon, what's going on?" And she said, "We need to talk." And if you ever heard the term the bro check, the ultimate bro check of all times happened right then and there, where she said, "What do you know about this guy and what do you think? Because things are kind of getting serious. Do you see me marrying this guy?" And talk to me about the Air Force. You owe me big.
I know.
You owe me big.
I know I did.
I hooked you up.
Yeah, I know.
I hooked you up, but I didn't have to lie at all. And so I told Shannon everything that I had to say. I don't know if I told the Maple Bar story or not, but I really was hoping that this was going to work, and it did. There's their engagement picture on the beach. And in August, they get married in Seattle, Washington. Again, that's where we grew up. And that beautiful wedding on August 31st of 2001. And then a few weeks later, on September 11th, 2001, Jason in processes next door over at Eglin Air Force Base, because the waivers are not going through. He's not going to be able to be a pilot. And he goes over there to be an acquisitions officer, and he's working a couple of big programs. One was called JASM, which is an acronym for a missile system. And another one was, he was working on a small diameter bomb that they called the SDB for small diameter bomb. And that's what Jason worked on. Was doing big stuff. And here's where I talk about he can be a little sassy and he's full of confidence, but he's also very humble. He took the blow. He wanted to be a pilot so badly. He took it in stride. He really did. And said, "All right, fine. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the best acquisitions officer the Air Force has." And he had all kinds of accolades come his way in that period of time. And he and Shannon now live in Florida. They're having a good life. And he continues doing that. He also worked in an office with testing programs for the F-15 and the A-10. And then August of 2004 happens. And I've quickly dubbed this the trifecta. Within 3 days in August of 2004, he gets promoted to captain. The waiver comes through. And now Jason's going to be able to go to pilot training, UPT, undergraduate pilot training. He's able to go, and he is stoked. But really the best thing that happened in that 3 days is Cameron joins the family. That was the best thing that happened in the trifecta. That was a pretty good span of 3 days, in my opinion.
It was awesome.
And so the family packs up, and then they head off to Moody Air Force Base in Georgia, where the Air Force had this great idea that we're going to try and do T6 training there, and that didn't last very long, but it lasted long enough for Jason to go. So there they are, they're home at Moody in Valdosta, Georgia. There's Jason in the mighty T6 that I flew for 12 years as an instructor in the active duty and the reserve. I'm totally positive that picture was authorized of him inverted on a solo to the area.
Totally authorized.
Totally authorized.
Totally authorized.
And here's the deal. Once again, T6 has proved to be a humbling moment in this man's career. It didn't come quite as easily as he thought it was going to. And as he'll humbly admit to you, he struggled a little bit with T6s, especially in the instrument phase. But here's where the humility comes back in. Is Jason humbles himself enough to talk to one of his classmates who's doing very well, especially in the instrument portion of training. And that's where you're not looking outside anymore and you're just looking in the cockpit and learning how to navigate just with your instruments in the cockpit. Jason sat down with a buddy who was doing well and said, "Can you please help me, because you're doing well and I'm not right now." The man can be very, very humble. And he did. And he graduated and did just fine. From there, they move on to Columbus Air Force Base for T1s, which we don't have pictures of. But he went there and Jason excelled. He graduated number 2 in his class, only behind an Air National Guard student that had been a former airline pilot and already had 5,000 hours. Jason, just for fun, says he didn't really care very much about being number one. I don't know if that's true or not, but he, because I know him, but he said the most fun thing was just kind of ribbing that guy who was so freaked out about not being number one because he already had 5,000 hours. And so that's where Jason's true personality comes in, where he just would kind of rev it up just to make that guy nervous. Graduates number 2 out of his class, and then the man sees the light, and he gets a KC-10 Alpha, and he goes to Travis Air Force Base to the 9th Air Refueling Squadron, and just continued to excel. From the success he had in that T1 program, he just went off, and then the true colors are really shining. The same excellence that he showed as an acquisitions officer is coming through now as a KC-10 pilot and officer. He quickly goes from being a co-pilot to an aircraft commander to a flight commander, and what that means is now he's responsible for maybe 20, 25 personnel in the squadron. He's the immediate supervisor to them. Then he gets upgraded again to be an instructor pilot. And then after that, they ask him if he'll be what's called an FTU instructor. That stands for Flight Training Unit. It's a new term from when I was a KC-10 guy. But those are the people that teach the new people how to do it. You're teaching the brand new co-pilots, and he's also teaching people that are going to be instructors how to be an instructor. And you don't just give that job to anybody. Jason did it very, very well. Anything else good happen in that time period, Riley? Yeah, you. Riley joins the family, and the fact that he is totally cool with Dad putting a picture on the board of him in his underwear, I think that Riley is one of the coolest guys I've ever met. There with his Lucky Charm shirt. Riley joins the family, and they are really doing well. He does so well that he gets selected to go in residence to Air Command and Staff College, which is a grooming school in the Air Force to help you be able to be promotable to Lieutenant Colonel one day. And so the family packs up from here, and then they go to Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama, and they had a great time there. It's kind of almost, he excelled, but he also felt like it was kind of a year off because there were no deployments in there, home every night. He was a baseball coach. Were you a soccer coach also during that time frame for the kids? Yep. So it was just a good time for the family. Now, after he graduates from there, it's time to decide what to do. And the Air Force is very famous for telling you what you need to do with your life. Jason has also been very good with saying, I appreciate that, and he's very respectful when that advice comes. But ultimately, he's his own man. And where the Air Force allows him to be his own man, he has been. And he's decided, okay, what does the family want to do? The family wanted to go back to Travis. Not necessarily thinking that might be the best thing for his career, but the family wanted to go back to Travis. So they did. And more great things happened there. Jason shows back up at Travis Air Force Base. And then in February of 2013, what happens? Lily joins the family, huh? Lily joins, and they've got all 3 kids now. As far as career-wise, Jason comes back to being one of those FTU instructors for a short period of time, and then decide, you know what, we're going to have you run the show. So he became the FTU commander, and he is now running the school, teaching people how to fly the KC-10. And he will tell you that's the most fun he has ever had. Rewarding probably would be being a squadron commander, but in terms of just fun, it was that assignment. Because everything has to do with airplanes and teaching people how to fly. And having spent most of my career teaching people how to fly, I can agree with that. That must have been a fun job, Jason. Yeah. He excels at that so well that he gets asked by the wing commander to come be his executive officer. So he kind of maybe sort of begrudgingly does that. Not because he loved doing the FTU chief so much that he really didn't want to leave it, but he knew that it was time for his career to continue progressing. So he goes up to the headquarters of the wing and becomes the wing commander's exec. Not surprisingly, he knocks that out of the park also. And then as a major, is asked to go to the 6th Air Refueling Squadron at Travis to be the DO. That's pretty impressive, being a major and being in the DO seat. There he gets selected for lieutenant colonel as well. And then the career kind of takes a little bit of a turn. And Jason starts getting asked about joining this new initial cadre for the KC-46, the new tanker that's coming to the Air Force. And Jason jumps on that, but it's a staff job as well. And they move to Texas, to Randolph Air Force Base, where Jason is going to be on the Headquarters Air Education and Training Command staff as the KC-46 guy. We don't have any KC-46s yet to fly, but he's the KC-46 guy, and he just started to lay the groundwork for what is about to happen when they're all over the place in the Air Force. He was responsible for working with Boeing in terms of talking about checklists, procedures. How are we going to evaluate KC-10 crew or KC-46 crews? How are we going to train KC-46 crews? And it was rewarding for him. I'll stop for a second, and I have not talked much about Shannon, but Shannon's true colors of being a dedicated mom really, really come through in this assignment, because Jason was gone on over 70 TDYs, which is a business trip. While 3 years you were there?
3 years.
Over 70 different business trips, TDYs, that he was gone a lot. And so it was a good assignment for him, career-wise. They enjoyed their time in Texas. I was stationed there also as a reservist. It was wonderful being able to go to their home occasionally for dinner, but it was hard on Shannon. But she's a trooper, and she did most of it by herself, while the Air Force asked Jason to be gone a lot, developing this KC-46 program. There, he does pin on Lieutenant Colonel. You can see over there on the far side, that's airplane's missing a throttle. It's only got 2 of them.
Yeah.
That's the inside of the KC-46. At the same time, he maintains currency in the KC-10, and that's pretty unique. In the Air Force, that doesn't happen very often, where pilots are qualified to fly 2 airplanes. We call it being dual qual, and it just does not happen very often. So that's a testament to not only his ability, but the trust the Air Force had in Jason to be able to handle both of those, and to be qualified in an airplane that really, it's hard to find one. And so to stay not just current, but you got to kind of be the man in it, and there aren't very many of them to fly. Jason's a sharp guy, and he was able to handle it with no problems. Well, it's time to move on. From Randolph, he's there for 3 years, and the Air Force wants to do more with him and develop his talents. So it's time to come back to McGuire, or come to McGuire. And he does. Initially, in the summer of 2018, the Bachelor family picks up, and they move here to New Jersey, and Jason's going to be the chief of flight safety, which is a job oftentimes where you put somebody that's going to end up being a squadron commander. It's kind of a grooming and sort of a holding position for an incoming commander. His jobs involved making sure that airplanes don't touch deer and birds, amongst other things. And obviously he did very, very well at it. And then the next year, he becomes the commander of the 2nd Air Refueling Squadron, which is second only to the 32nd Air Refueling Squadron. I just thought I'd mention that. You bet. But again,
just stop.
We rib each other all the time about that one. He comes here and just absolutely does a fantastic job. You can see him here coming up behind another mighty. Are you coming up behind a 46 in that? No, it's a KC-10. He's coming up behind another KC-10, doing some air refueling. Right before the boom operator's probably saying back 4, which is an inside joke. You can see him up here doing air refueling with the Thunderbirds. Right in the middle picture there, that's the family right after he does his change of command, and kind of the weight of a lot of people comes on your shoulders. You can see him in the far right-hand corner there, taking the guide on, taking command of the squadron. While he's at squadron commander, he's got, besides the normal things you take care of as a squadron commander, which are a lot of people issues, a lot of things that nobody else knows about, that he's got to keep quiet and keep private while he's helping people with their careers and also with some personal issues in their lives. He's got 3 big things he's working on. One is the KC-10 sadly is winding down, and it breaks my heart to see them in the boneyard out there. That middle one is this airplane here that Jason got to take to the boneyard. To say that he's flown an airplane to the boneyard and also been able to take delivery of a brand new KC-46 in a career, that's pretty special, but he was able to do that. He's winding down the KC-10. I think that we're referring to that as the KC-10 divestment. Is that the official term? Makes me cry. But also he's got to get the squadron ready to take on the KC-46, which is going to happen this fall, I understand. Does that sound right? We hope. And then there's this thing called COVID-19. So to be a squadron commander with all the things you normally have to deal with, but you've got those three things on your plate constantly, that is a lot. Jason would have much preferred being in the airplane with his people flying constantly, but he was a busy man, taking care of folks and taking care of the Air Force's mission. Again, he's selfless, and he did a fantastic job. He stayed current in the 46 through all of this. He was able to be the first pilot to land a KC-46 at McGuire Air Force Base, which is a pretty neat little accomplishment. I would have liked to have been able to get in that airplane before I retired. And that's Jason's career. Jason's decided again that he could have done many more things. He was selected to colonel, but again, the humility comes back, and he's decided what is best for the Bachelor family. Instead of what he might want to do with the rest of his career, he huddles back with the family and decides what's best for us. That may not be the same for another family, and they've made the decision that after 20 years and 9 months of service to the United States, that it's time to retire from the military and pursue a civilian career. And so I wish you all the best of luck. This has been quite the career, and it was an honor to be able to see Jason at the very, very beginning of it when we were snot-nosed cadets trying to figure out how to march and thinking that we were really cool and important, but we weren't. And to see him now where he is just recently gave up the guidon as a squadron commander and ready to go do big things in the world. I'm cheesy to say I'm proud of you, but I'm proud of you, man. And Shannon, this is kind of fun that never would have thought when we were kids together in Sunday school that we'd be in this situation right now. And I'm saying hi to Bill and Jane on the camera because you know how much I love your parents. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm happy for you, and I wish you all the best. Thank you. How about this man?
No other way. Have you up here? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lieutenant Colonel Bachelor, would you please join Lieutenant Colonel Adams at center stage? Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of the Meritorious Service Medal to Lieutenant Colonel Bachelor.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America, authorized by Executive Order 16 January 1969, has awarded the Meritorious Service Medal, 3rd Oak Leaf Cluster, to Lieutenant Colonel Jason R. Bachelor for meritorious service, 7 July 2018 to 30 June 2021. Lieutenant Colonel Jason R. Bachelor distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States as Commander, 2nd Air Refueling Squadron, 305th Operations Group, 305th Air Mobility Wing, Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, New Jersey. During this period, Colonel Bachelor led 150 officer, enlisted, and civilian airmen in executing 15,000 flight hours, including the Joint Chiefs of Staff Alert Mission. Under his command, squadron air crews offloaded more than 14 million pounds of fuel and airlifted 1.4 million pounds of cargo in support of 8 combatant commands. Additionally, as a detachment commander for Albacore Sky 2020, Colonel Bachelor commanded 79 personnel from 4 wings in the first KC-10 Total Force Integration Full Spectrum Readiness Exercise. Despite constraints imposed by a global pandemic, the 2nd Air Refueling Squadron thrived on innovation and flexibility and continued its legacy of performing second to none, garnering 18 Group, 12 Wing, and an Air Mobility Command level award, as well as 12 Formal Training Unit distinguished graduates. Finally, as Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst's first dual-qualified KC-10 and KC-46 instructor pilot, Colonel Bachelor used his aviation expertise and strategic vision to implement the unit's conversion from the KC-10 to the KC-46, establishing the installation success in next-generation tanker operations. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Bachelor culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the publishing of the retirement order.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. Department of the Air Force, Washington, D.C., Special Order Number AC dated 000675. Effective 30 June 2021, you are relieved from active duty, organization, and station of assignment. Retired effective 01 July 2021 per Air Force Instruction 36-3203 in the grade of Lieutenant Colonel. Proceed to home selection by order of the Secretary of the Air Force. Please be seated. At this time, Lieutenant Colonel Adams will present the retirement certificate and letters of appreciation to Lieutenant Colonel Bachelor, which reads,
Yeah, you can go.
Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America.
You can open it up.
To all who shall see these presents, greetings. This is to certify that Lieutenant Colonel Jason R. Bachelor, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Air Force on the first day of July 2021. Signed, General Charles Q. Brown, Chief of Staff of the Air Force. The presidential certificate reads, I extend to you my personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of a grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history with a devotion to duty and a spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of military service. I trust that in the coming years, you will maintain an active interest in the armed forces and the purpose for which you served. Those who follow in your footsteps will draw inspiration from your commitment, dedication, and sacrifices made to ensure the protection of our America's freedoms. My best wishes to you and happiness and success in the future. Signed, Joseph R. Biden, Commander-in-Chief. At this time, we would like to ask Shannon to come on stage. Placing this pin on Lieutenant Colonel Bachelor's lapel symbolizes his transition from active duty to retired status. In the future, each time your husband wears his uniform or business attire, this pin will serve to remind all that he has served faithfully and has earned his retirement. This pin indicates he is still a member of the Air Force, but now serves in retired status. Lieutenant Colonel Bachelor, please wear this pin proudly on any occasion in which you may represent the Air Force. Thank you, Shannon, but please stay on stage. Anyone associated with the armed forces knows the ups and downs of military life affect not only the military member, but also the spouses and children of those members. They must endure frequent moves and extended absences from their loved ones, all the while taking care of the family and home. It is their loving dedication and support that allows us in the profession of arms to serve our country with pride. Shannon Bachelor, the Air Force recognizes that your undying dedication and support have been invaluable to your husband and to the Air Force. This is why we'd like to honor you today. Lieutenant Colonel Adams will present Mrs. Bachelor with a certificate of appreciation signed by General Charles Brown, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and Colonel Scott Wiederhold, Commander, 305th Air Mobility Rigs. It reads, in grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents a certificate of recognition to Mrs. Shannon Bachelor for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now offer a tribute to Lieutenant Colonel Bachelor and to the flag of the United States of America. Please remain seated and draw your attention to the screen for the flag folding ceremony presented by the Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst Air Force Honor Guard.
For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field representing our new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor, white signifies purity and innocence, and blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally, a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both at home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the stars and stripes waving after the British shelling of Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words to the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July of 1969, the American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong planted it on the surface of the moon. Today our flag flies on constellations of Air Force satellites that circle our globe, and on the fin flash of our aircraft in harm's way in every corner of the world. Indeed, it flies in the heart of every airman who serve our great nation. The sun never sets on our U.S. Air Force, nor on the flag we so proudly cherish. Since 1776, no generation of Americans has been spared the responsibility of defending freedom. Today's airmen remain committed to preserving the freedom that others won for us for generations to come. By displaying the flag and giving it a distinctive fold, we show respect to the flag and express our gratitude to those individuals who fought and continue to fight for freedom at home and abroad. Since the dawn of the 20th century, airmen have proudly flown the flag in every major conflict on lands and skies around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we, as Americans, enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedoms that we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave.
It was because of his family's constant support, encouraging words, and never-ending love that he has made it to this day. At this time, Shannon will present a gift. Thank you, Shannon. You may return to your seat. At this time, Senior Master Sergeant Pettaway will present a gift on behalf of the 2nd Air Refueling Squadron Flight Engineers, followed by Staff Sergeant Revell presenting a gift on behalf of the 2nd Air Refueling Squadron Boom Operators, finally with Captain Jones presenting a gift on behalf of the 2nd Air Refueling Squadron.
You know, sir.
Hey.
First, I'd like to say that nobody can ask any more of a person to serve at least a day in this uniform. And you made it 20 years. So for me personally, I'd like to say thank you. For the engineers of the Deuce, thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership. You said to you this clock. They say timing is everything in a career. You picked the right time. Time on this clock says 2 o'clock.
Nice. Nice.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Let me hold on to it.
Sure, just put 32
I'll
on.
put 32 on there somewhere.
Hey, sir. On behalf of the boom operators of the second, I'd like to present you this photo of your finish line. Not only is it a reminder of where a pilot's true office is, not behind the desk, but up front flying the jet, but a big thank you from all of us, especially during this past year, which has been crazy, and help guiding our career paths moving into the new jets, or old jets if you're in the 135, or whoever doing that. But a big thank you again from all of us.
That's incredible.
That's awesome.
That's really good. Thanks, buddy.
That's really cool.
That's awesome. Take some notes.
Back 4.
Sir, a gift from the entire squadron here. Again, the heritage of the Deuce, the heritage of pilots. We give you a prop here, and I show what we've got. Again, thank you for everything. Again, ditto what all the rest of the gang here said.
Wow, that's cool, man. I much appreciate it. Thanks very much. Thank you very much. Good grief, this thing's a little bit big. Give it right back, I guess.
That's cool.
That's cool.
And finally, 305th Operations Group Commander Colonel LoBianco with a gift.
Not everybody gets one of these, Jimmy, but just to commemorate, you're the guy on there with the second and your command pin, and your successful
Awesome.
command tour. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so
Shannon
much,
and
man.
Rick.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Congrats, Trash.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now present to you Lieutenant Colonel Jason Bachelor, retired. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thanks. All right, here's to hopefully my speech being up here. It is. That's good. Thank you very much for being out here. I normally speak away from behind a podium. That's just not going to be the case today. I'm gonna stay back here, and I let my good friend Ryan tell a lot of the stories, and so I'm just gonna try and make this hopefully allergy free. I think I saw the allergy dust start to creep in on him a little, and I'm hoping it doesn't. It's gone. So we'll see what happens. I'll tell you this: that standing before you today, it absolutely does feel a bit surreal. Reflecting back on the past 20 plus years, there have been long days, there have been short years, there's been short days, and then there's been long years as well. But it's all been good. It's all been good, and I'm very, very grateful for what I consider a successful career in service by my family and I in the United States Air Force. I'd like to first start by thanking those who are attending today, both in person as well as virtually. Colonel Wiederholt, sir, thanks very much for being here. Colonel LoBianco, ma'am, thank you very much. Chief Ottenwest, you're out here somewhere. There you are, right back there. Thank you, thanks, Chief. Colonel Teeter, I saw you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your attendance today. For all of you, thank you for your leadership, your guidance, and your support. I very much appreciate it. And it has been a pleasure serving with you during my last assignment here in the Air Force. My sincere thanks go out to all of those who had any part whatsoever in planning or executing this event today. It's a big deal for my family, and it's a big deal for me. Captain Jones, Captain Galang, Captain Cabasura, Captain Schmidt, Sergeant Sattel, Sergeant Sepiel, Sergeant Ravel, Airman Savage, and any others that had any part at all. Your tireless effort in planning and executing this day has been absolutely superior. Thank you. Master Sergeant Danielle Grant, thank you very much for your rendition of the national anthem. It was beautiful and very well done. Chaplain Ruiz, another beautiful invocation. Thank you very much. To Miss Dana Ritchie, thank you for your professional support as our protocol expert, and my apologies if I violated any of your rules in any way, which I'm sure I have. Master Sergeant Chad Vickers, back there behind the camera right now. Your talent and skill with the audio and video work has transformed the way we can share this experience with so many. And so COVID, in many ways, is much of a pain as sometimes it is, and sometimes how it creates some of these somewhat awkward situations. It also gives a chance for close family and friends around the world to be able to share in these types of events as well, as we put them on recording for all to see. So that's pretty cool. Chad, thank you very, very much for the work, not only here, but with the change of command last week as well. To Nick out there, now the current commander of the 2nd Air Refueling Squadron, already doing a fantastic job. Thanks, buddy, for taking time out of your busy day. I know how you feel. It means a lot as a peer and a friend to have you in attendance. Higmo sitting right in front of him. So my predecessor is the Deuce Commander. So you've got one current and 2 former commanders of the 2nd Air Refueling Squadron in the same room right now, and that's some pretty cool legacy. To the Deuce Pros, those of you that are here in person and those that are attending virtually around the world, I already miss you, but I'm grateful for your attendance in my retirement ceremony. Know that you're out there operating to the most elite standard. Thank you. To those that I've had the pleasure of ever working with, thank you for shaping my career in such a way that I'm proud to call it a success. To the Adams family, Christina, Ryan, Robert, and Scott, thank you very much for spending your precious time traveling over here to the East Coast to allow your husband and your father to preside at my retirement. Ryan, when I began to think seriously about retirement, you were the first person that came to mind. I had no idea, as you mentioned earlier, I had no idea that when we first met my sophomore year out there at the Y, that I was looking at the guy who had previously served as the babysitter to my future bride. But it happened, and I never would have told you he would be officiating at my retirement ceremony, but here we are, and that's cool. I'm very proud to call you a friend. And finally, to my friends and my family, Blaine, here's the allergy dust, y'all. The allergy dust just made it to the room. Blaine and Chris, Dax, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, Jane and Bill, Mom and Dad, all of our extended family. Can't hardly see anymore. Good grief. And of course, my children, Cameron, Riley, and Lily, my beautiful bride, Shannon. Each of you has given so much to allow me to be here today. At this time, I'm happy to provide you what is a very small but heartfelt token of my appreciation to you today. So, over here, we got a couple of things. Who are we starting out with? All right, starting out with for Shannon. for you, babe. Got to pull that mask down. Miss Lily. These guys helped me buy these flowers, Lil, and they said, well, what kind do you want? I said, 2 things. It's got to have a lily, and it's got to be pink. All right. Mom, I didn't tell them it all had to be pink, but I figure we'll probably be getting these back in about 2 days when y'all depart anyway, so they'll just be in a different part of the house, but thanks, Mom. Yeah. All right, my boys. I suppose you probably didn't want flowers, so I gave you what I thought you'd enjoy, a little something for you to make that next online purchase on me. And then, and then to my dad, when I came active duty, he gave me a bag. He gave me a bag full of his rank. And I proudly wore them. Matter of fact, my hat that's in the back, he's got him, that's his lieutenant colonel rank, and I added one thing to it. I just added the eagle. So, back to you, Dad. Thanks. All right, enough of this stuff right here. But thank you all for being here. Again, whether it's in person, watching on a screen from many miles away, your attendance, either way that you're watching, it truly means a lot to me. Since I was a young boy, I've known of my super strong desire to fly airplanes. That went unchanged for my entire life. To this day, it's still a passion of mine. I just love flying. Getting to the point where I could do it for the Air Force and being trusted to lead airmen certainly wasn't without its challenges. Thanks, Ryan, for telling the story. But there are a few folks worth mentioning that had a critical role in making it happen. First, Ryan here. Again, you've heard the story, but this man here helped me. He hired me to be on his cadet wing staff as his adjutant, despite me being the new kid on the block at BYU following my transfer from the University of Florida. He made me feel immediately comfortable in a new environment where I literally knew nobody. My professor of aerospace studies at BYU, Colonel Frank Clausen, he pushed us all to work hard and to seek after and hold to the highest standards. My first squadron commander, Lieutenant Colonel Lloyd Moon, commander of the 8th Special Operations Squadron, who offered some sage advice and who had the long-term insight to ask the right questions and document critical answers to those questions on a 3.5-inch floppy disk. Colonel Chris Cook, Air Force Seek Eagle Office Director, who wasn't satisfied with getting an answer from some robotic thinking staff officer, and he pushed so hard for me that he literally slapped the pilot training assignment on my desk only minutes after being told it wasn't possible. Then Colonel and now Major General Corey Martin, who fought for me when I told him I had a desire to pursue KC-46 initial cadre, even though the timing of my desire may not have been ideal in the eyes of the Air Force in terms of officer progression. Lobo, thanks to you for never giving me a hard time when I tactfully mentioned in about the last 5 seconds of an end-of-day conversation that I'd be flying the next day. As a squadron commander, I honestly appreciated that, as well as the freedom you gave me to lead my people. Thank you very much, ma'am. My mother and father, Charlotte and Bob, who saw me through both the best and worst of times. Thank you for the advice, the encouragement, and everything else that you have done for my family. And of course, Shannon and the kids, who have been there every step of the way through thick and thin. You've selflessly held things down at home while I was up there in the air or in the office during the long days, trips, and deployments. This day is not about me. It is about us. So congrats on your successful service of over more than 20 years to our nation. To call myself a winged pilot for the world's greatest Air Force has been a total privilege and something that I will never take lightly. As our family looks towards the next chapter of life, we are grateful for the many friends we've made and the opportunities that we've enjoyed along the way. While I have much to look forward to, I know I'll miss the camaraderie only found in an Air Force squadron. My best wishes to the next generation of airmen and their loved ones. Lead on, fight hard. Thanks, and I'll miss you.
Thank you, sir. It has truly been an honor to serve in the United States Air Force with you. Please stand for the playing of the Air Force song and remain standing for the departure of the official party. This concludes the retirement ceremony. Thank you all for attending.